Ferrari cleverly took advantage of the FIA's issue to avoid being caught off guard, and Lewis Hamilton discusses the differences between Ferraris and Mercedes cars. Let's dive into that now. Hey everyone, welcome to Pole Position News. Today, we're talking about Ferrari, covering two main points, one being much more important than the other, with the second being more of a curiosity. Let me start with Lewis Hamilton's curiosity. Hamilton has spoken a lot about his experience with Ferrari, how his first laps in a red car felt, seeing the Tifosi, and all that excitement. The interesting part is that he mentions how the Ferrari behaves very differently from what he's used to in the Mercedes. And you might think, well, maybe it's because of the new ground effect regulations from 2022. But no, Hamilton was referring to the car he drove 10 years ago. In other words, he's saying that the Ferrari drives in a completely different way than what he's used in the Mercedes, whether in the lean years or the more successful times. He points out that Ferrari's car is unique in its handling. Of course, there's a bit of emotion and marketing involved when Hamilton speaks, but it shows the differences in car development. Each car has its own signature, its characteristic, which comes from the designers and engineers. Mercedes has maintained a solid foundation with their developers, and Ferrari has its own base too. So, it makes sense that Mercedes keeps one standard while Ferrari has another. Then Hamilton mentioned that Ferrari's engine feels different from Mercedes. He's adapting to it, considering he's only driven Mercedes engines in Formula One up until now. So, this is his first time driving a non-Mercedes engine in the top motorsport series. And it doesn't stop there. Hamilton also said that adapting to such a different car is an enjoyable process for him. He admitted that the crash in Barcelona happened because he was pushing the car to its limit. He made a mistake, so it takes some of the blame away from the bump, let's say, in the third sector. He also mentioned that, to fully understand the Ferrari car, its differences from Mercedes, the engine, and all the details, he needs to push it to the limit. That's a pretty cool insight. Finally, Hamilton said that he knows very well what it takes to be part of a winning team, especially since he's won 7 championships. He stated that Ferrari has all the components needed to win the championship. In other words, everything he saw as positive in Mercedes' organization, he's seeing in Ferrari as well. Of course, during his time at McLaren, even though it was a bit of a rough patch, he still offered a lot of praise to the team. As I mentioned earlier, some of these compliments might be emotional or related to marketing, but when they come from Hamilton, they seem sincere based on the way he talks. So, I do believe he's seeing a Ferrari that has a potential go for the title, a Ferrari with a clear vision, one that, as Fred Vasseur mentioned, appears to be much more stable and grounded in a solid project compared to previous years. I was one of those who criticized Binotto's departure, but of course, no one can predict the future, and I said, let's see if Frederic Vasseur does a good job. And so far, he's doing a good job, at least as things stand. Everything indicates that. I'd love to hear your opinion on this whole matter. What really caught my attention is Hamilton talking about how different the Ferrari is from all the Mercedes cars he's driven. It made me wonder, what's this major difference? It's not just about whether the car is more rear-heavy or front-heavy. There's something else to it. Even within the same team, you can have cars with different characteristics. So, what exactly is this big difference between Ferrari and Mercedes? That's still an open question. Now, about the directive that's going to change the front wing. We have some really interesting news from Frederic Vasseur. Last year, you may recall that Ferrari openly criticized FIA for not responding quickly enough about the flexible front wing. The FIA took too long to clear the front wing, saying everything was fine and no one would be penalized. Ferrari held back on using their wing, which may have cost them better results, at least in theory, since the flexible front wing contributes significantly to performance. Ferrari introduced their wing at the end of the season, but here's the twist. Starting in the 2025 Spanish Grand Prix, the FIA will change how they test flexible wings, which will likely force teams to alter their wings for the rest of the season. And here's the catch. The teams that started later and invested a lot of money developing this wing didn't get to use it as much as they wanted last year. And now in 2025, they'll have to adjust it again to pass the FIA test, if it doesn't already pass. Some teams have already expressed concerns about this, and Vasseur said, "We knew we'd need to update the wing. We just didn't know when. But we're not worried because we already have everything ready to comply with this change." In other words, Ferrari, being aware of how the FIA operates, already made a wing design to fit the period when the tests were still in what we call normal conditions. The FIA had announced during the break that they wouldn't change the tests. Isn't that tricky? Teams go and spend money, especially on the budget cap, only to have the FIA pull this move. But Ferrari went ahead, spent their money, and in doing so, prepared for a possible change in the FIA's approach, fully understanding how the FIA works. This could give Ferrari an edge. Of course, other teams may also be preparing for this change, but think about the team that wasn't ready. Think about the team that based their entire project on the flexible wing, and now that becomes problematic. There's no guarantee that a car designed around a flexible wing will still work as efficiently without it or with less flex. This affects car stability, airflow management, whether inside or outside the car, above or below. The front wing plays a crucial role in the car's balance and performance. A change in the wing design could be enough to lose a tenth or two, which could even cost a championship, depending on the situation. I wouldn't be surprised if Ferrari had been the constructors' champion if they'd used a flexible wing earlier in the season, while the FIA was still figuring things out. So now, they prepare for the FIA's potential moves, and it seems Ferrari is feeling pretty confident with a project that should work with or without the flexible wing. But of course, all of this is just on paper. I'd love to hear your opinion on this matter in the comments. Personally, I think the FIA is a mess with Mohammed Ben Sulayem. But let me know what you think, and don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell to stay updated, and check out the videos that will pop up now. Big hug,